former Congo premier who was captured when he fled inland, the former premier shows no emotion. It may be the end of a chapter, but not yet the end of the Congo story.
Africa is a continent of immense beauty and rich cultures, but it's also been a stage for intense political drama. Throughout African history, many leaders have met dangerous and tragic ends due to unstable politics and unhealthy rivalry. Many African leaders have become the victims of violent murders after finding themselves the targets of covert plots, military coups, and deadly conspiracies. Join us as we explore the harrowing details of 20 African presidents who were brutally assassinated in the most dangerous ways. Number 20. Thomas Sankara. Thomas Sankara was born Thomas Isidore Noel Sankara on December 21, 1949 in Yako, French Upper Volta. After becoming prime minister in 1983, Sankara faced conflicts with the existing government, which eventually led to his imprisonment. During this time, supporters of Sankara carried out a coup to seize power, gaining widespread public approval later that year. At just 33 years old, Sankara became the president of Upper Volta and started a series of reforms in social, environmental, and economic areas. He renamed the country Burkina Faso, meaning land of incorruptible people in opposition to its colonial past, and its citizens became known as Burkinabe, meaning upright people. His foreign policy focused on opposing imperialism, rejecting loans and capital from organizations like the IMF, while carefully accepting some foreign aid to boost national revenue and reduce dependence. Within his country, Sankara focused on preventing famines, expanding agriculture, reforming land ownership, and eliminating rural taxes. His initiatives included nationwide literacy campaigns, vaccination drives against diseases like meningitis and measles, and a large distribution of vaccines to children. He oversaw the building of schools, healthcare centers, water facilities, and infrastructure projects across the country. Sankara also started a big project to fight soil erosion by planting over 10 million trees in the Sahel region. Additionally, he banned harmful practices such as female genital cutting, forced marriages, and having multiple spouses. To save money and improve his image with ordinary people, Sankara ordered the sale of government-owned luxury vehicles and properties, banned air conditioning in government offices and officials' homes, and set up committees inspired by Cuban models to involve communities and gain support. Despite being popular among many poor Africans and most Burkinabe people, Sankara faced opposition from parts of the old ruling class, tribal leaders, and the governments of France and Ivory Coast because of his policies. On October 15, 1987, Sankara was assassinated by soldiers led by Blaise Compaoré, who then took control of Burkina Faso. Number 19. Amilcar Cabral. Amilcar Lopez Cabral was born on September 12, 1924 in Bafata, Portuguese Guinea, which is now Guinea-Bissau. During his time in Lisbon, he got involved in student movements that opposed Portugal's dictatorship and advocated for independence for its African colonies. Returning to Africa in 1953, Cabral conducted a large agricultural survey across Portuguese Guinea, covering more than 60,000 kilometers. In 1956, Cabral founded the PAIGC, African Party for the Independence of Guinea and Cape Verde, aiming for independence from Portugal. He also helped start the MPLA, People's Movement for the Liberation of Angola, the same year. From 1963 until his death, Cabral led the PAIGC's successful guerrilla campaign against Portuguese rule, becoming a key leader in Guinea-Bissau's struggle for independence. To prepare for the independence war, Cabral set up training camps in Ghana with Kwame Nkrumah's support. He trained his officers in effective communication and farming techniques, knowing that sustainable food production was crucial for both soldiers and civilians. Under his leadership, Pag-Ki soldiers not only fought but also grew crops alongside local farmers. Cabral also created a trading system to provide essential goods at lower prices than colonial shops. He established mobile hospitals to offer medical care, obtaining supplies from countries like the USSR and Sweden. Despite these efforts, he was assassinated on January 20, 1973, in Conakry, Guinea, by former PAIGC rival Inocencio Kani, along with another PAIGC member. Number 18. Robert Guei. Guei was born on March 16, 1941 in Kabakuma. He spent his career as a soldier, and during the time of French rule, he received training at military schools in Ouagadougou and Saint-Cyr, France. He strongly supported President Félix Houphouët-Boigny, who appointed him as head of the army after a mutiny in 1990. However, after Houphouët-Boigny's death in 1993, Guei grew distant from the new leader, Henri Konan Bédié. In October 1995, Guei refused to deploy his troops to settle a political dispute between Bédié and opposition leader Alassane Ouattara, resulting in his dismissal from the army. In a coup on Christmas Eve 1999, Bédié was overthrown, and despite not being involved in the coup, Guei was persuaded to come out of retirement to lead the junta until the next elections. He assumed the presidency on January 4, 2000. In the October 2000 presidential election, Guei ran as an independent candidate, allowing only one opposition candidate, Laurent Gbagbo, to compete against him. Guei lost decisively to Gbagbo, but refused to accept the outcome, leading to widespread protests that brought Gbagbo to power. After fleeing to Guécesso near the Liberian border, Guei remained a significant political figure. He participated in a reconciliation forum in 2001, where he agreed to support democratic processes. However, he withdrew from the agreement on September 2002. On September 19, 2002, during the early stages of the civil war in the Cocody district of Abidjan, Guei, his wife Rose Doudou Guei, and their children were assassinated under mysterious circumstances, allegedly by forces loyal to Laurent Gbagbo. Number 17. Sylvanus Olympio. Sylvanus Olympio, born on September 6, 1902 in what was then part of the German colony of Togoland, is an important figure in Togo's journey to freedom from foreign rule. Educated and with a clear vision for a thriving Togo without colonial control, Olympio studied in London and briefly worked in the United States before returning home. He was determined to free his homeland from French colonialism. Olympio's leadership quickly made him a key figure in Togo's freedom movement. Known for his active approach and convincing speeches, he effectively rallied the people to support the end of French rule. In 1960, Togo became independent, and Olympio became its first president. However, independence brought challenges. Olympio faced the difficult task of uniting a country divided by its colonial history and developing a strong economy from nothing. His centralized government approach excluded certain parts of Togo's military, especially those linked to the former French colonial army. By early 1963, frustration grew louder due to economic difficulties and grievances among excluded military groups. This unrest led to a tragic military takeover on January 13, 1963. Olympio sought safety in the United States Embassy but was turned away. He was captured and assassinated outside the embassy, making him the first African head of state to be removed in a coup. Number 16. Francois Tombalbaye. Francois Tombalbaye, born on June 15, 1918 in southern Chad, became a symbol of hope for a country wanting to break free from colonial rule. He started his education in missionary schools and later trained as a teacher, giving him a deep understanding of local issues and the power of education. As Chad moved toward independence from France, Tombalbaye's leadership skills quickly made him well known. He played a key role in the Chadian Progressive Party, PPT, which was important in leading the country to independence. When Chad gained independence in 1960, Tombalbaye was made its first president due to his believed ability and popularity. However, Tombalbaye's presidency was full of problems. His goal to modernize and unite Chad was clear, but his methods were often seen as controlling. He suppressed opposition, restricted freedoms, and sometimes used traditional practices like initiation rites to build unity and loyalty. His perceived favoritism towards the Christian South over the Muslim North also created tensions. By the early 1970s, Chad was full of unrest. Rebel groups, especially from the north, began actively opposing Tombalbaye's rule. In response, he used a mix of strong suppression and efforts to calm the situation, including changing his Christian name Francois to the African name Ngarta. However, these actions did little to stabilize the country. On April 13, 1975, the rising tensions led to a coup by the Chadian military. Tombalbaye was arrested and quickly assassinated, ending his 15-year rule. Number 15, Samuel Doe, Samuel Canyon. Doe was born on May 6, 1951 in Tucson, a small village in Grand Guei County. In 1990, Samuel Doe, the former president of Liberia, met a tragic end during the early Liberian Civil War. He was captured by rebel forces led by Prince Y. Johnson on September 9, 1990. Doe had been called to the ECOMOG headquarters for what was supposed to be a safe meeting away from rebel threats. However, the situation turned grim when rebel forces, unexpectedly heavily armed, surprised everyone during a change in guard duty from well-equipped Nigerian peacekeepers to a less prepared Gambian contingent. Johnson's forces easily overcame Doe's lightly armed team, took away their weapons, and eventually killed them despite earlier promises of safety. Doe found himself in danger. In a brutal and horrific act, Johnson ordered the cutting off of Doe's ears to ensure that no supernatural powers could protect him. Doe was then chained, and the torture continued with the cutting off of his fingers and toes. After enduring 12 hours of suffering, Doe was assassinated on September 9, 1990. Number 14, Melchior Ndadaye. Melchior Ndadaye was born on March 28, 1953 in the community of Nyabihanga, Rwanda, Urundi. He played a very important role in Burundi's politics. He made history in 1993 by becoming the country's first elected president through voting by citizens and peaceful change of power since Burundi's independence from Belgium in 1962. As a member of the Hutu ethnic majority, his election was particularly important because Burundi had long been controlled by the Tutsi minority. Ndadaye stood in clear contrast to the political leaders who had traditionally governed the country. As president, he worked very hard to promote togetherness and connect the deep ethnic splits that had troubled Burundi. He focused on including the Hutu majority in significant military and administrative roles, areas from which they had mostly been left out. Ndadaye's time as president was very short. Just a few months after his election on October 21, 1993, he was assassinated during an uprising led by military groups, mostly made up of Tutsi. Although the uprising did not succeed in taking power, it resulted in Ndadaye's death. Number 13, Joao Bernardo Vieira. Joao Bernardo Vieira's political journey in Guinea-Bissau was a series of highs and lows. Born on April 27, 1939, in Bissau, Vieira became important during Guinea-Bissau's struggle for independence from Portuguese rule. He played an important role as a military planner and trusted assistant under the leader of the liberation movement, Amilcar Cabral. Vieira's battlefield skills and leadership paved the way for his later political career. After Cabral's tragic murder in 1973 and Guinea-Bissau's independence in 1974, Vieira faced many challenges. In 1980, taking advantage of widespread dissatisfaction with President Luis Cabral's rule, Vieira organized a peaceful military takeover and became president. He ruled for almost 20 years, making him one of Africa's longest-serving leaders. Initially focused on rebuilding a nation torn by war, Vieira's time in power soon became marked by accusations of human rights violations, political oppression, and economic mismanagement. Guinea-Bissau's economy heavily relied on cashew nut exports, making it exposed to global price changes. Vieira's failure to diversify the economy and corruption accusations worsened the country's issues. The late 1990s were particularly rough for Guinea-Bissau and Vieira. A civil war broke out in 1998 between government forces and a military group, resulting in Vieira's removal in 1999 and subsequent exile to Portugal. Despite this setback, Vieira surprisingly returned to power in 2005 after winning the presidential election. However, his second term was brief, as he was assassinated on March 2, 2009, in revenge for the assassination of the country's army chief of staff. Number 12. Richard Ratsimandrava. Richard Ratsimandrava was born on March 21, 1931, and came from the Merina ethnic group in Madagascar. After graduating from the prestigious French military academy, Saint-Cyr, Ratsimandrava served in various parts of French-controlled Africa. When Madagascar gained independence in 1960, he returned home and joined the National Army, quickly rising to the rank of lieutenant colonel by 1968. In 1972, President Gabriel Ramanantsoa set up a military government, replacing the previous administration of Philibert Tsiranana. During this time, Ratsimandrava became the Minister of the Interior. However, the army was full of intrigue, and several high-ranking officers were able to manipulate it, resulting in the ousting of President Ramanantsoa on February 5, 1975. Just 6 days after Ratsimandrava assumed office, he was assassinated at 8 p.m. while driving from the presidential palace to his home. The new military committee, which had taken over, announced his death, claiming he was killed by members of the Republican Security Forces, Group Mobile de Police, GMP, a group disbanded by his predecessor. Number 11. Ibrahim Bare Mainassara. The political situation in Niger during the 1990s is incomplete without considering Ibrahim Bare Mainassara's influence. Born on May 9, 1949, Mainassara's journey from a military officer to the president was marked by change and disagreement due to the unstable politics of the time. Mainassara's rise to power was deeply tied to the military. While serving in the armed forces, he took on various roles, including peacekeeping missions and important administrative jobs. However, political unrest in Niger during the 1990s presented him with a clear chance. Unhappy with President Mahamadou Usmane's government, Mainassara successfully took control in 1996, overthrowing the democratic government and becoming the country's leader. Once in power, Mainassara promised to lead Niger back to democracy, organizing presidential elections later that year. However, these elections were clouded by claims of cheating and irregularities, staining Mainassara's win with controversy. As president, he concentrated power, limited press freedom, and suppressed political opposition. While he introduced economic changes and sought international partnerships, his leadership style drew criticism for its authoritarian tendencies. Mainassara's rule ended violently on April 9, 1999, when he was assassinated by members of his presidential guard in a coup. Number 10. Mohamed Boudiaf. Mohamed Boudiaf played a very important but sadly short role in Algeria's recent history. He was born on June 23, 1919, when Algeria was ruled by France. Boudiaf's political ideas were shaped during Algeria's hard fight for freedom. He helped start the National Liberation Front, FLN, the main group against French rule, and played a big part in Algeria's fight for independence. His strong support for the cause led to his arrest and time in prison by the French in the 1950s. After Algeria became independent in 1962, disagreements within the FLN pushed Boudiaf aside, and he had to live in Morocco for almost 30 years. But in 1992, Algeria faced a time of trouble when political tensions almost led to a civil war. Boudiaf was asked to come back from exile and became president of the High Council of State, with the job of guiding the country through hard times. Boudiaf's return was seen as a sign of hope because of his strong belief in Algeria's independence and his honest reputation. In his short time as president, he started efforts to stop corruption and work to ease growing tensions. On June 29, 1992, he was assassinated during a public speech by a guard connected to the Islamic Salvation Front. Number 9. Abdirashid Sharmarke. Sharmarke was born on June 8, 1919, in the town of Haradher, located in the north-central Mudug region of Somalia. In 1943, Sharmarke joined the Somali Youth League, a new political party. The following year, he started working for the British administration's civil service. Despite his job, Sharmarke continued his education and finished secondary school in 1953. He then won a scholarship to study at the Sapienza University of Rome, where he earned a BA in political science. Sharmarke returned to Somalia in 1959 after completing his studies in Italy. He was elected to the Legislative Assembly soon after. On June 26, 1960, British Somaliland gained independence, and on July 1, 1960, it joined with the Trust Territory of Somaliland, formerly Italian Somaliland, to form the Somali Republic. When the Somali Republic was created, the president at the time, Ahmed Abdallah Osman Dar, appointed Sharmarke as Prime Minister of Somalia. As Prime Minister, Sharmarke traveled extensively to promote a neutral foreign policy. He served as Prime Minister until March 1964, when the first general elections were held. He was re-elected as a member of parliament. In the 1967 presidential elections, Sharmarke defeated Dar and became the second president of Somalia, taking office on July 6, 1967. In 1968, Sharmarke survived an assassination attempt when a grenade exploded near his car as he returned from the airport. However, on October 15, 1969, during an official visit to Lassana, he was assassinated by one of his bodyguards. Number 8. Johnson Aguiyi-Ironsi. Thomas Umunakwe. Aguiyi-Ironsi was born on March 3, 1924, in Ibeku, Umuahia, which is now part of Abia State, Nigeria. At 18, he joined the Nigeria Regiment. Starting as a private in the 7th Battalion in 1942, he quickly rose through the ranks, becoming a company sergeant major in 1946. By 1964, Aguiyi-Ironsi was appointed commandant of the entire United Nations peacekeeping force in the Congo. In 1965, he achieved the rank of Major General and became the first indigenous officer to lead the entire Nigerian army when Major General C.B. Welby Everard handed over the position to him. In January 1966, a coup led by Major Chukwuma Nzeogwu attempted to overthrow the Nigerian government, resulting in the assassination of the Prime Minister Alhaji Tafawa Balewa. Aguiyi-Ironsi acted swiftly to counter the coup, capturing and imprisoning Nzeogwu. Subsequently, on January 17, 1966, Aguiyi-Ironsi was named the military head of state, a role he held until July 29, 1966, when a group of Northern Army officers staged a counter-coup and assassinated him. On the night of July 29, 1966, while staying at the government house in Ibadan during a nationwide tour, Aguiyi-Ironsi was warned by his host, Lieutenant Colonel Adekun Lafajuyi, about a possible mutiny within the army. Despite his efforts to reach his army chief of staff, Yakubu Gowon, he was unsuccessful. In the early hours, soldiers led by Theophilus Danjuma surrounded the government house, leading to Aguiyi-Ironsi's tragic end. His body and that of Fajuyi were later found in a nearby forest. Number 7. Laurent Kabila. In the history of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC, Laurent Kabila's story is one of change, leadership, and differences. Born on November 27, 1939, from simple beginnings, Kabila became important in the changing politics of the DRC, then known as Zaire. From a young age, Kabila was strongly influenced by Marxist ideas and a strong sense of Pan-Africanism. These beliefs led him to join rebellions against Belgian colonial rule and later against the controlling regime of Mobutu Sese Seko. For years, Kabila led rebel groups in the distant provinces of the large nation. However, his luck changed a lot in the mid-1990s. With help from Rwanda and Uganda, Kabila started a successful rebellion in 1996 against Mobutu, whose 30-year rule had put the DRC into economic trouble and political chaos. By May 1997, Kabila's forces had beaten Mobutu, marking the end of his rule. Kabila took control of a nation badly needing guidance and recovery. However, the early excitement of the rebellion soon turned into the difficulties of ruling. Kabila faced criticism for his controlling ways and claims of human rights abuses. The democracy he promised seemed hard to achieve, and his relationships with Rwanda and Uganda got worse over time. On January 16, 2001, Laurent Kabila was assassinated by one of his guards. Number 6. Abeid Karume. Abeid Karume was born on August 4, 1905 in the village of Mwera, Zanzibar. When he was young, Karume left Zanzibar and traveled to different places, including London. There, he met important African thinkers like Hastings Kamuzu Banda from Malawi, which broadened his understanding of world politics. He grew his political influence by expanding the Afro-Shirazi Party and building ties with the Tanganyika African National Union. On December 10, 1963, Zanzibar became fully independent from the United Kingdom. The Sultan became a constitutional monarch, and the first elections were won by the Zanzibar National Party, ZNP, and the Zanzibar and Pemba People's Party. Karume was initially willing to work with the new government, and even warned a British police officer about an upcoming revolution in January. On January 12, 1964, while Karume was on the African mainland, a revolution broke out in Zanzibar led by an unknown Ugandan named John Okello. Following the revolution, John Okello invited Karume back to Zanzibar to become the president of the People's Republic of Zanzibar. Okello also called back other Zanzibari exiles, including Marxist politician Abdulrahman Mohammed Babu, who joined the Revolutionary Council. Okello named himself Field Marshal, though his power was unclear. Karume used his political skills to gather support from nearby African leaders against Okello and invited the Tanganyikan police to help keep order. When Okello left the country, Karume declared him an enemy of the state and barred his return. Without their leader and facing Tanganyikan police, Okello's followers did not resist. Karume's next big move was to form a union with Tanganyika's president, Julius Nyerere, in April 1964. This union created Tanzania and ensured the new nation would not side with the Soviet Union, as Babu had wanted. With the backing of mainland Tanganyika, Karume sidelined Babu, who eventually fled Tanzania after being accused of plotting Karume's assassination in 1972. Karume's life ended suddenly in April 1972 when he was assassinated in Zanzibar town. 4 gunmen shot him while he was playing bow at the Afro-Shirazi Party headquarters. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. In the center of an African city, President Kofi Mua stood tall as a symbol of hope. Known for his bravery and foresight, he tirelessly worked to lift his people from poverty and conflict. One fateful evening, as he spoke to a happy crowd in the city square, a single person in the crowd raised a hand, hidden within the folds of an old jacket. A gunshot broke the silence of the night, causing fear among the gathered people. President Mwamba fell, holding his chest, his eyes wide with shock. the killer disappeared into the crowd, leaving a grieving nation and many unanswered questions. In the following days, the nation mourned together. Candlelit vigils were held in every neighborhood, mourning a leader whose ambitions were cut short. Amidst the sadness, rumors of conspiracy spread through the streets. Who could have been behind the tragic assassination of President Kofi Mua? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Number 5. Murtala Mohammed. Murtala Mohammed was born in Kano on November 8, 1938. He led a counter-coup in 1966 that overthrew the military dictatorship of Johnson Aguiyi-Ironsi. Mohammed became a key figure during the Nigerian Civil War. On February 13, 1976, General Mohammed set out for work as usual, driving along George Street. Around 8 a.m., his Mercedes-Benz was navigating the heavy Lagos traffic near the Federal Secretariat when a group of soldiers ambushed him and assassinated him. These soldiers were part of a failed coup led by Lieutenant Colonel Buka Suka Dimka. They attacked Mohammed's car, killing him and his aide, Lieutenant Akintunda Akinsahinwa. The only defense they had was a pistol carried by his orderly, making it easy for the assassins to succeed. Mohammed's assassination was a part of Dimka's attempted coup. Dimka was later caught and executed for treason on May 15, 1976, at Lagos's Kirikiri Maximum Security Prison. Number 4. Ahmed Abdallah Abderrahmani. Abdallah was born on June 12, 1919 in Domoni, on Anjouan Island. His role in government started in the 1940s, when the Comoros were under French control. He served as president of the council from 1949 to 1953, and later led the Chamber of Deputies in the 1970s. By 1972, Abdallah led the Comoros Democratic Union and became president of the Government Council and chief minister until July 6, 1975, when the islands gained freedom from France, except for Mayotte. Abdallah became the first president of the independent islands, but was removed. Abdallah held the position of president despite facing 3 sudden changes. In 1982, he disbanded all political parties, including the UDC, and established the Comorian Union for Progress, UCP, as the only legal party, marking the start of a harsh rule. During this time, soldiers of fortune controlled the country, led by Bernardo, who also amassed substantial land for fancy hotels serving Western tourists. Abdallah stayed in power through controlled elections in 1984 and 1987, amid suppression of opposition and economic exploitation by Dinar. His controversial rule ended when he was assassinated in his office in Moroni on November 26, 1989. Number 3. Abdallah Isaac Derow. Abdallah Isaac Derow was born in 1950. Derow, a member of the Rahawain clan, represented them at the 2000 Somalia National Peace Conference, known as the Djibouti Conference. Following this, he was elected as the Speaker of the Parliament in the Transitional National Government, TNG, in August 20, 2000. During his tenure as Speaker, he oversaw the election of Abdikasim Salad Hassan as President of the TNG at the same conference. In August 2003, Derow was removed from his position as Speaker, which he argued was unfair because the TNG's term had already expired earlier that month. Later, in 2004, he was appointed as the Minister of Constitutional and Federal Affairs in the Transitional Federal Government, TFG, succeeding the TNG, by President Abdullahi Yusuf Ahmed. Tragically, on July 28, 2006, after leaving Friday prayers at a mosque in Baidoa, where the TFG had its temporary headquarters, Derow was assassinated by a lone gunman. Number 2. Marien Ngouabi. Marien Ngouabi was born on December 31, 1938 in the small village of Ombele, located in the Cuvette department within the Kuyu region, now the Republic of the Congo. He became one of Africa's most energetic and youngest leaders. His early military career shaped his future, teaching him discipline, strategy, and the challenges of power. A strong believer in Marxism, Ngouabi was convinced that socialism was the key to real freedom and progress for newly independent African countries. In 1969, during political chaos and several coups, Ngouabi took control of the Republic of the Congo. He renamed it the People's Republic of the Congo as a result of his socialist beliefs. He created a single-party state under the Congolese Labour Party, PCT, and started socialist changes, taking control of key industries and spreading out power. However, Ngouabi's rule was not without problems. The military, which had helped him rise to power, became a source of trouble. While he aimed to reduce tribalism and build national unity, his efforts were often met with resistance. The country's oil wealth, instead of being a blessing, became a source of conflict, with different groups fighting for control. Ngouabi faced serious threats from within, including multiple attempts on his life. Understanding the difficulties of ruling a diverse post-colonial nation, he tried to keep his power, which sometimes meant stopping opposition. Despite his efforts, his life came to a tragic end on March 18, 1977, when he was assassinated in Brazzaville. Number 1. Patrice Lumumba. Patrice Lumumba, born on July 2, 1925 in Onalua, Belgian Congo, became well known as a leader fighting for his country's freedom. He strongly supported Pan-Africanism and Congolese patriotism. Lumumba dreamed of a Congo that was together and free from foreign control, where its valuable natural wealth would benefit its people, not other countries. In June 1960, Lumumba's dream came true when the Democratic Republic of the Congo gained independence from Belgium. He became the country's first prime minister, but faced many challenges. The sudden change from colonial rule left the nation without an experienced government system. Additionally, there were movements in some regions, notably in the resource-rich Katanga province led by Moise Tshombe, which made the political situation worse. Lumumba's strong leadership style and his refusal to give in to Western pressures caused controversy. Lumumba's perceived alignment with the Soviet bloc increased Western worries. By September 1960, amid political turmoil and opposition, President Joseph Kasavubu removed Lumumba from his position. However, Lumumba disputed this move, leading to a struggle for power. In December 1960, Lumumba was arrested by forces loyal to Joseph Mobutu, who had staged a coup with Western backing. Lumumba was assassinated on January 17, 1961, in Katanga. Which of these African presidents who were assassinated did find intriguing? Let us know your answer in the comments section.